Dan Illman, Mike Beer, race number 10 at Monmouth Park kicks off a $100,000 guaranteed 50-cent pick 5. For those of you that might be knocked out of the $400,000 guaranteed 50-cent pick 4. It's the Grade 3 Monmouth Cup. We're going 1 mile and an eighth. We have a big field of nice horses, and let's take a peek at this group. We've got Monongahela at 3-1 on the morning line, Mike, for Chad Brown. And Monongahela has done well at Monmouth Park, obviously, in the past. His coming out party was in the Philip Island last year, but his coming out party also came when trained by the controversial Jason Service. And Monongahela, although in very tough in his first start for Chad over a wet track, didn't run very well.
No, he didn't. We'll see what happens. He is eligible to win this race for sure. He's got the back form to be very tough in here. But if he's going to be the favorite in this race, I'm happy to bet against him.
Isn't he going to be much closer to the pace than where Time Form US has him? As we take a look at the pace projector, I certainly understand Bodie Express, the number 10, going out to the front. That's his best game. And the 9, Bal Harbour, figures to show fresh speed. He was relatively close in the Cigar Mile against a couple of world beaters. But I would think that Monongahela can get a little bit closer to the pace, and that's probably been his best running style.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he is, because at the beginning of his career, when he just could not win a race, he was more of a deep closer. Jason Service got some speed into him somehow in 2019, and it really worked to his advantage last time. Outrun to last again, but that, as you mentioned, that was better horses.
Kind of a shame that number 1 global campaigns had his share of physical issues, because when Stanley Huff has some right, he's capable of doing some good things, like in his first 2 lifetime starts in the Peter Pan. Even his third in the Jim Dandy was an okay performance, but it was a race that preceded a lengthy layoff. I thought he had a very good trip, winning at 7 furlongs against sort of a questionable field in his seasonal debut. And last time out, he just didn't run at all in the blame. That was a very disappointing performance.
Yeah, we'll see what we get from him in this race. I'll say that he's a contender, and then we'll just see what happens. If I'm being honest, I've never been a big fan of this horse. I've never really gotten, he seems to take a lot of money every time he races, and I've never really understood that. I know that he's good. I'm just not a big fan, and I wouldn't take a short price on him.
As for Monongahela, if you just believe in buyer speed figures, you have to use him. I mean, he's got 3 triple digits buyers on his screen. I mentioned the victory over this surface in the Island. I don't know about 1 mile and an eighth for him, if that's necessarily his best distance. And if he is coming from mid-pack, I'd prefer to have some of the other speed horses. Again, it all comes down to price, and I think 3-1 on the morning line's a little light.
Yeah, too short. He's just not for me. You're right that he's got, 2 or 3 races that would make him really tough in here. And if he runs one of those, then I guess he'll beat me, but I'm not betting this horse.
Senior Investment was third in the 2017 Preakness, and he's still kicking. A stakes winner at this distance 2 starts back, but he couldn't have had an easier trip. The jock just got him right to the front. They backed down a half mile in a stakes race in 50.96, and Senior Investment's supposed to scoot on home and win like that. The Westchester, similar situation as Monongahela, probably overmatched. He at least did some work up close to the pace.
He did. That was just too tough a spot, I suppose. I respect the fact that his first 3 starts this year were all pretty good, but he really is more of a speed type, and it feels like this pace might really work against this horse.
Harper's first ride might be the now horse in this race. In a field full of horses that might have seen better days or are trying to get back to their best form, Harper's first ride is still lightly raced. He's won 6 of 10. He's won 3 of his last 4. And yes, he did get a very nice trip in a 1-turn mile race last time out. The pace was contested, but it certainly wasn't fast. If Harper's first ride, a confirmed mid-pack horse, is pressing the pace, they're not going fast. I like the way he flicked away those horses in the stretch. He probably has to do a little bit better, but he is in good form, and here he is turning for home in that most recent start. I think he can get the 1 mile and an eighth.
Yeah, I wasn't as worried about the distance with him either. I guess this would be just more of a class thing for Harper's first ride, just to see if he can take a step forward here against some better horses. I respect that he's in really good form. What is he, 5 for 7 since he's been claimed, and he's got good tactical speed. I think he can get a good trip in this race. I just wasn't convinced that he was good enough.
Math Wizard is the number 5, and he's pulled off some upsets at a mile and an eighth, including the big 31-1 Bommaroonie in the Pennsylvania Derby last year. He really wasn't all that embarrassed, all things considered, in the Breeders' Cup Classic. The Razorback, well, that wasn't a very good race, but I have to be honest with you, Mike, I thought his last race was sneaky good. That one-turn mile event at Gulfstream, a one-turn mile might be a little bit short for him. He loomed 4 wide turning into the stretch, and then he flattened out. I think it was a good prep for him, stretching back to the mile and an eighth.
Yeah, I thought it was too. He did run pretty well in that race. And it's not like he doesn't have the back races to go with these horses. We'll see what he can do here. It's only a second start, or third start, I guess, as a 4-year-old, if you take the Razorback into consideration. He was pretty good, Dan. He's outrun his odds many times. He's hit the board in a bunch of graded stakes races. There are a lot of different ways to look at him and think he's a big player in here.
Core Beliefs is the number 6 as we take a look at the entry card again. This horse ran third last time out in his first race off a little bit of a layoff, but we know he can get the mile and an eighth, no sweat, winner of the New Orleans Handicap in 2019. After that, he was put in some really tough spots. Vino Rosso, Tom's d'Etat, Catalina Cruiser was in excellent form when that horse won the San Diego, and his last race off a little bit of a layoff. I feel the same way about Core Beliefs last race as I do about Math Wizard, that it was a really nice prep that he could take a big step forward off of, and he likes a mile and an eighth again.
Yeah, he does. I'm a big fan of this horse. To me, I do feel like he might have to get a little faster to win this race, but I really do feel like his new trainer has found a good spot for him here.
We have a classic placed horse in Senior Investment. We have a classic placed horse in the 7 Jovi, a third in the Belmont last year when riding that gold rail all the way around the track. His seasonal debut sprinting was fine, and a lot of folks, myself included, thought that perhaps Jovi might be on his way to a sharp 4-year-old campaign. Things have not gone right since.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see what happens. The Westchester last time, he wasn't going to win that race anyway, but I didn't think he ran well at all. His recent form is just not good. And listen, we've talked about this before, Dan. I still think this horse is better sprinting, but they insist on going along with him.
I agree. I think he's better at shorter distances. It will be interesting to see how aggressive they will be out of the gate with him because he does have some speed. Just Whistle wants the mile and an eighth. There's no question about that. And ever since Michael Matt stretched him all the way out and added blinkers, he's become a new horse. Now in the Howell's Hope, his coming out party, he could not have had a better pace situation. They went blazing up front and he rallied from way out of it to finish second. He was gutsy in winning the Sunday Silence and he was overmatched in the Suburban. His races from 2 or 3 back, if you give him the right setup, make him interesting.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. We'll see if he can, step up a little bit here. These are better horses. Not that, he's facing a bunch of world beaters here, but they are better horses than some of the ones that he's defeated in the past. And I know he doesn't have the back credentials that some of these horses do, but it does feel like he's finally getting good. He always felt like he had potential, Dan, and it feels like he might be starting to put things together.
Bal Harbour won the Sapling here as a 2-year-old, second in the Island last year behind Monongahela. And listen, he took on some really tough competition last year. I think he actually had a very underrated campaign. He went 0 for 7, but look at the races he ran. Preservationist was in raging form in the Woodward, and Bal Harbour gave him all he could handle down towards the inside. In the Fayette, he caught Tom's d'Etat, Mr. Freeze, and for a brief instant in the Cigar Mile entering the turn, he went after Maximum Security and spun to run until he finally realized he's not Maximum Security and spun to run. He got to deal with a layoff, but I think he's a solid performer. It's Smith, first time Greg Sacco.
Yeah, I think this horse makes a lot of sense in the race. He'll get the mile and an eighth. I don't think it's necessarily his best distance, but he's run perfectly fine over this distance several times in the past, and he's done it against better horses too. To me, in a lot of ways, I feel like this is the horse to beat in here.
Bodie Express, in my opinion, is the horse to catch, and he might be the horse to beat because his House Hope was an underrated race. Let's watch that right now. He really was on the move early in here. This pace was fast. He tried to open this up with about 3 furlongs to run, and you can see right now he's got a big lead. Now, the question I have for you, Mike, is this. When you see a horse like Bodie Express with that kind of lead blow it to a horse that's 60-1 and to 24-1, are you disappointed, or do you think just the pace scenario and the tactics worked against him?
And listen, I don't think you want to be too hard on him because that pace was just too fast. But you know what? Your other point is not, something that I would just totally dismiss. It's just the kind of race where if you're going to survive a pace like that, you're going to do it with a bunch of long shots trying to catch it. Bodie Express couldn't get it done in there. And if I'm being honest, Dan, I wasn't thrilled with his form before that race. I do think he ran well last time. I didn't like his races leading into that, though. So I'm not really sure where I am with him. I know he's dangerous in here. I'm probably not going to bet him.
It's really all about if Daniel Centeno can get him clear over to the inside and relaxed, something that is a problem with Bodie Express. He can be a problem child going into the gate and behind the stalls, and he's often tough to rate once he's on the lead. If he does rate, he can be tough to run down. Let's take a look at our picks for the Grade 3 Monmouth Cup Stakes. We're going to try to beat Monongahela in here. I liked Math Wizard's return off of the layoff. I think it's something that he can build on, and I know he can pull off an upset at 1 1/8. You like Just Whistle. You think this pace is going to be solid. And again, ever since they've stretched him out, he's really, really blossomed.
Yeah, I just sort of felt like maybe this was the kind of race, and I'm not, way against Bal Harbour. Again, I do think he's the horse to beat. I just sort of felt like this race might be ripe for one of the horses that are a little bit more under the radar, and I like the way that Just Whistle's headed.
Bal Harbour is our second choice in this race. Mike's going 8, 9, 6, and 3. I'm going 5, 9, 1, and 4. It is the Grade 3 Monmouth Cup, kicking off that guaranteed pick 5 wager on Haskell Saturday. Good luck.